A lot of people who've been writing for a while will form these habits without really meaning to, but if you're a new writer, you really need to be intentional about forming this habit. And this is the habit of Hello world! My name is Millie Florence, and today I'm sharing with you guys my top 5 tips for new writers. Now, the reason I'm making this video is because this is one of the most common questions I get asked. Do you have any tips? And as you can imagine, that is kind of a difficult question because I have a lot of tips. I have like a million tips. There are people who have written books upon books upon books full of pages and words of tips. What tips do you want? So I never really know exactly how to answer this question. I decided, well, why don't I just figure out some general best practices that every writer should know that I can share so that everyone can watch this video and receive those tips in the most eloquent, best way that I can give them. So, without further ado, my top 5 tips for writers. When I say invest, I don't necessarily mean money. You can invest lots of things. You can invest time, you can invest energy, you can invest space, you can invest all sorts of things into your education as a writer. You can invest time in reading, in writing. You can set aside time and brain space and energy to better yourself as a writer. Several great ways to better yourself as a writer and invest in your education is to read books, nonfiction books on writing. Read the kinds of books that you would like to write. Obviously, don't copy those books, but let them be an influence on you. Let these incredible authors and stories that we all have access to be an influence on you. Fill that creative well and that creative space. And don't just focus on books. Watch YouTube videos like this, read blog posts, watch movies and TV shows that have great story. Go to conferences if you have a little extra money. Attend online webinars, talk to other writers, ask them for their advice. Watch what other writers do to pick up on these tips and ideas. Create a writing group. Take an online class on writing. I did that. There are actually some awesome online classes for kids at bravewriter.com. Not sponsored, by the way, I just really love these classes. Find all these ways where you can invest time and energy, maybe money, and a part of your life in your education as a writer, and you will become a better writer. Examples of this would be create a habit of writing regularly, whatever that looks like for you. Maybe you have a specific time when you write, or maybe your habit is to just, whenever you have time, pull out your computer or your phone or your notebook and write. Carry a notebook with you at all times. This is a huge thing. And hey, maybe your notebook is the notes app on your phone. That works too. Just something where you can take notes and remember ideas. You're gonna think that you can remember that idea. You will not. You have to write it down, otherwise you will totally forget. And that idea may be what makes the difference in the draft you're working on, or spark an idea for your next incredible story. Another habit that you need to set is not just a physical habit, but a mental habit. And this is especially a habit that you need to create if you are a new writer. A lot of people who've been writing for a while will form these habits without really meaning to, but if you're a new writer, you really need to be intentional about forming this habit. And this is the habit of having an open and creative mind that is ready to receive ideas. People often ask, where do I get ideas? Ideas are literally everywhere. They are everywhere all the time, all day, in all places. The difference is who knows how to see them. You need to set the habit of seeing ideas. A really quick example, and I actually posted this on my Instagram a while ago, but one time I was at homeschool prom. Yes, the homeschool prom exists, and it was awesome and really fun. And there was a door at the edge of the dance floor, and it said library/elevator in a plaque on the door. And I was like, wait a minute. Library/elevator, what does that mean? What could that mean? Is there a library inside the elevator? Does the elevator lead to a library? What if it was a magic elevator full of books. And every time you opened a book and pressed a button on the elevator, you went to the land inside that book. As a writer, as a creative person, you should train yourself to notice and process things, and then ask questions about them, and ask what if, and then write them down in your notebook, and then write about them at your regular writing time. Boom. So set creative habits. Have a vision. You are so excited about this idea, and you just cannot wait to get started, and you know exactly what it's gonna be. It's gonna be the next great novel, you know. You're so excited, you're so motivated, you got this, you know, and you love the characters, and you love the setting, and you can't wait for it all to happen. So a lot of people start that way, with that excitement. But the thing is, excitement is not the same as vision. Excitement is passing. You will not always be that excited about your story. You're just not. You can't be that excited 100% of the time. You would go crazy. So what you need is not passing excitement. You need a vision. A vision is a long-term dedication. It is a vision of what you want the book to be. And that vision will probably change somewhat throughout the process. But you always need to have this vision, this goal, this thing that you are aiming for up above you that is the point of writing your story. So sometimes when you feel like, why am I doing this? Why am I sitting down? I don't really want to write today. Remember your vision. Remember, oh yeah, I want someone to be able to sit down and open this book and experience this. So let's take, for example, my book, Lydia Green. I wanted it to be a beautiful story of how even though there's darkness in this world, there is also light, and light will always win against darkness. You need to come up with that little pitch. Why am I writing right now? Because I want to create that beautiful thing that I have not created yet, but it is somewhere in my future, and all I have to do is go find it. And right now I'm taking one more step to go find it. Now you have to realize just a vision isn't going to help. A vision on its own is not going to help. Your vision needs to be your ultimate goal, but you are not going to get to that ultimate goal unless you set creative habits like we already talked about. The creative habits are the blocks that build you up to that goal. So both of them help each other. You might have your creative habits, but you feel like, why am I even doing them? That's where you need the vision. You might have your vision, but you're like, how am I gonna get there? That's your creative habits. Now I know this is all about writing advice, and I'm telling you not to take people's advice. That's not entirely true. I am telling you to take people's advice, but I'm telling you to be very skeptical of all advice. That doesn't mean you're like, oh, I know everything, I don't need advice. No, you do need to learn, like we said, invest in your education as a writer, but don't take everything every writer says immediately. Why? Because every story is different. Every person is different. Every writer is different. We all write and experience the world and create our stories in different ways. No advice is one size fits all. One of my favorite quotes about this is from Steal Like an Artist. Highly recommend this book, by the way. Something he says in the last part of his book is, some advice can be a vice. If you are following writing advice that you have heard from a writer, a book, a psychologist, a podcast, a YouTube video, and it is your end-all, be-all, holy grail of writing advice, be sure it works. Because not all advice is going to work for you. I have heard some people say that you really, really need to plot out your novel every single detail. And that works for them, like perfectly. That doesn't work for me. I wish it did. That would be a lot more like efficient if I plotted out everything and then just wrote it all, you know, in a single draft and had it almost perfect the first time. I can't do that. That's not the way my brain works. For some people that works, and that's great advice for them, but it's not great advice for me. I need to write a super duper messy first draft and then make it slightly better and then make it slightly better. We all need to find out what works for us. Contrary to popular belief, writing is not purely subjective. There are things that make a good book and a not great book. But that doesn't mean that you can't break the rules. There is such a thing as poetic license. It's a very delicate balance. So I'm not saying disregard all rules. I'm saying, okay, in general, give all rules some good consideration. Analyze them. Figure out, first of all, if they work for other people, and then figure out if they work for you. So yeah, basically just take everything with a grain of salt. Sit down and write. Yes, do all the things I said before, invest in your education, set good writing habits, have a vision, and take advice with a grain of salt. But you do actually have to write. Obviously this is different for everyone, but there are some people who are incredible procrastinators and they will spend more time looking up writing advice and watching videos like this than actually writing. Yes, you do need to do those things, but sometimes you just need to sit down in the chair, pull out your computer or your notebook or your typewriter and write the words and get the words on the page. We are called writers for a reason. We are writers because we actually write, not because we think about writing. A professional is an amateur who didn't quit. At some point, the advice just needs to be, keep doing what you're doing. That's really all there is to it. Just keep writing, Sometimes we need to change our direction, sometimes we need more advice, sometimes we need to figure out where we're going and, kind of reevaluate things. Sometimes we just need to keep doing whatever it is that we're doing. Sometimes we just need to push forward, keep moving, keep believing in ourselves, and reach the end. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you found these tips helpful as some general best practices, writing advice for all writers ever. Well, no, not for all writers ever. Take it with a grain of salt, yeah. If you want to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe. Comment if you have any ideas for videos I can do, or if you want to see more videos like this from me. I do have 2 books published currently, and I would be forever grateful if you guys would consider checking those out. Millie Florence, signing out.